It's often said that the left eats its own, that you can never be pure enough for the Puritans, that you can never be ideologically perfect enough for the left. And so it is that in the wake of the federal election, various left-wing influences are going at each other, chief amongst which being Abbie Chatfield and Clementine Ford, both of whom are very much in that left-wing influencer sphere, both of whom seemingly were backing the Greens, and neither of whom seem to particularly like each other. And we've got a rather vicious back and forth going between the two of them, something that has also been covered in Sky News and on Bearing as but a couple of examples. So I think I'd go through this and give you my take on it, and my thoughts about what this means for the left-wing influencer sphere. And if you've got any thoughts about it, well, let me know that in the comments below. Now, Clementine Ford, as some of you might know, is a rather old-school feminist who's been in the media for a very, very, very long time. I regard her as a bit of a left-wing hardliner who, for example, doesn't seem to particularly like men. Furthermore, she's gone very much all in on the pro-Palestine stance, and very much against anyone who might be seen as even vaguely pro-Israel. This would include people like Anthony Albanese. Abbie Chatfield is a relatively newer influencer. She's often slightly mocked for having sold adult toys, and she very much again is all in on the Greens, in particular the pro-Palestine stance. I regard both of them as being a bit politically incompetent because they will back the Greens, and their policies are a trash fire, which I've covered in prior videos, but they nevertheless seem to dislike each other immensely, with Clementine Ford slamming Abbie Chatfield as being a dilettante and simply not really knowing very much about politics and being purely performative, whereas Abbie Chatfield has then slammed Clementine Ford for being mean to her. Now, Abbie Chatfield, like I've said, was really all in on the Greens, to the extent that she was in tears when Adi Bant lost his seat, and this was her reaction.
Go to sleep because I'm having anxiety about Adam Bant losing his seat. I was so busy celebrating fucking Dutton losing that I didn't even think it was possible for Adam Bant to lose his fucking seat. I didn't think it was possible. What does it mean? What does it mean?
For her part, Clementine Ford, of course, was backing in various left-wing parties. However, she doesn't like Abbie Chatfield, being quoted as saying, "This is why we have Australian influencers like Abbie Chatfield profiting from the performance of being politically engaged, and presenting herself as a voice of feminist and political authority, while railing against anyone who demands more from her than shallow aphorisms and platforming genocide supporters. Anyone who criticizes her is an idiot. They clearly don't understand how things work. They have no strategy. They're being mean to her. They're jealous of her podcast and her university degree. She's hotter than them. Everyone who disagrees with her is a troll." Now, Clementine Ford makes some rather personal attacks in general against Abbie Chatfield. However, she does make a bit of a valid point here, in particular in the latter part of the paragraph. In particular, she's getting at the idea that Abbie Chatfield is a bit of a dilettante, doesn't really have a deep political understanding, but also will then slam anyone who criticizes her in rather shallow and personal terms. Something that Abbie Chatfield has been captured on camera as having done, and here's but a couple of examples.
So it's an interesting combo being racist and the leader of a conservative party, yet also that into numerology. Because the thing is, if you're going to be woo-woo, live the woo-woo. If she was woo-woo and she was on TikTok live, just $10 for an astrology reading, $10 for an astrology reading, I'd love it. I'd be following Susan. But unfortunately, instead of doing that or doing Reiki Zoom calls, she's leading the Liberal Party. Dutton is now answering questions about the woke agenda in schools. I just want to say, if you're asking about the woke agenda, like if you're asking what Peter Dutton is going to do about the woke agenda, you are such a fucking loser. Like, you are such a you're such a loser. Like, you're an insecure, weird loser who is terrified of progress. Just so you know, like, because whenever they try to define woke, they either dance around it or they say something that's just racist, sexist, transphobic. Like, if you are against the woke agenda, what you're actually against is progressive education and the advancement of the human mind and the human culture. If you're against people being treated nicely, you're such a loser. You're such a, oh my...
So in short, Abbie Chatfield seems to believe that she is smarter than everyone else, but doesn't actually need to explain why her policies are so perfect. However, Clementine Ford seems to go even harder left than Abbie Chatfield, for example, referring to, it seems, Anthony Albanese as a genocide supporter, which is obviously a little bit ridiculous, because for all of Anthony Albanese's faults, I don't think he supports genocide. So Clementine Ford is correct that Abbie Chatfield is a dilettante, but I don't really think that Clementine Ford is any better. I don't think Clementine Ford has any greater depth of policy acumen or expertise or knowledge than Abbie Chatfield. She's just been in the media for longer than Abbie Chatfield has. Now, Abbie Chatfield did not respond well to this, issuing a rather tearful response to Clementine Ford.
I just want to say as well, I'm very used to being trolled and called out or called in or whatever, right? But there is a difference between calling someone out constructively and lying about them and harassing them. And what Clementine Ford is doing is the latter, in an effort to convince herself and her followers that I'm actually evil. She is lying about me. What I'm saying is I don't have these things that she's accusing me of having. I am not a fucking narcissist. I've been abused online and in real life with that word and told that I'm a narcissist, because I speak my mind and tell people how I actually feel about things. It's taken me so much work after that abusive relationship to know that I'm a good person, I'm generous and I'm kind and I'm loving. And being with Adam has shown that, and my friends have shown me that, and I have really deep relationships with people. And I've had to remind myself every day since that relationship that I'm not a narcissist. And she's just saying it willy-nilly, but as though she knows me, as though she never had a fucking real conversation with me.
Now, I have no doubt that Abbie Chatfield has been subject to quite a lot of trolling, and I don't support that trolling at all. However, there are some valid criticisms here, such as the lack of real policy depth in any of her discussion, and the fact that she seems to just go around slamming anyone who disagrees with her. Indeed, it does look kind of like Abbie Chatfield herself is a crybully. Clementine Ford, for her part, appears to be a little bit jealous of Abbie Chatfield coming along and taking some of the limelight from her, because Clementine Ford had been one of the most prominent feminists in social media, and Abbie Chatfield coming along and perhaps being the new bright, shiny person along the scene, perhaps for taking some of the limelight away from her, something that Bering had pointed out in his video. Regardless, I think they're both hypocrites. I think neither of them have any real policy depth. I wouldn't really be listening to either of them for actual political analysis. However, it appears that they've somehow been lionized and promoted amongst both the mainstream media and parts of social media. But it doesn't surprise me at all that they are tearing each other apart, whether it be due to jealousy or a perception that they are perhaps not ideologically pure enough for them. Whatever the case might be, I think it just demonstrates that the left always eats its own. Now, of course, I'm sure that the right side of politics has a very similar thing, but I haven't seen it to the same magnitude. But let me know your thoughts about this back and forth in the comments below. Are you on Team Abbie or are you on Team Clementine? Let me know what you think.